Hello, everyone, and welcome to this exclusive video interview series as part of our ebook, The Broken Candidate Experience, Here's How to Fix It, brought to you by ETHRWorld Southeast Asia in association with Paradox. I'm Yasmin Taj, editor, ETHRWorld International, and head branded content for the Economic Times. As part of this exclusive ebook, we bring to you in-depth insights from leading talent leaders from across Southeast Asia, where they reveal some interesting narratives and learnings on how to win and retain the right talent by offering an authentic and positive candidate experience, which makes hiring easier, faster, and impactful. The last few tumultuous years have paradoxically changed the meaning of work, careers, and workforce. People want to feel related and connected to the organization they want to work with. They're looking for meaning and purpose. No longer do employers have the opportunity to cash in the immense talent available. It is a candidate-driven market where employees are the choosers, and the war for talent has only intensified. And this year has been no different. Inflation, recession, layoffs, and the cost of hiring have all added to the challenges for CHROs and their recruitment team. In this interview, we will look at why HR and recruitment leaders need to take urgent action on their current candidate experience to attract the right talent. And to drive this conversation, I'm excited to have with me Anjali Velayudhan Menon, who's Human Resources Director for FrieslandCampina, Malaysia. Anjali's purpose is to be the catalyst for curiosity, learning, and sustainable growth for people, organizations, communities, and our planet. She's passionate about enabling and working in a diverse, purpose-driven, collaborative work environment to generate value by maximizing individual and collective potential. Currently, she's leading the HR function, serving as a member of the management committee of Dutch Lady Milk Industries, publicly listed company and a subsidiary of Royal FrieslandCampina NV, and as statutory director for FCS CAP, FrieslandCampina Service Center, Asia Pacific. So Anjali, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to host you for this episode.
Thanks a lot, Yasmin. It's my pleasure always to interact with you. Thanks for having me with you.
Absolutely, a pleasure always for us too. And to further dive into the topic with subject expertise, we have with us Ian McCreery, who's Strategic Solutions Consultant at Paradox. With over 16 years of work experience, Ian helps organizations transform their talent and HR processes. He also resonates with Paradox's mission to change the talent experience through conversational AI in HR technology, and is passionate about people spending time with people and not software. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to host you.
That's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I'm looking forward to some great insights from the both of you. So let's jump right into the conversation. And I'd like to ask you, Anjali, first, according to you, and you've been in this profession for so many years now, what drives a good candidate experience?
I think, especially in today's environment in a market when we have so many multiple challenges which are running, generations is a big one which comes out for me, to be honest. And I believe different candidates in different generations varies the candidate experience that they seek, which is happening very, very strongly from my experience in past 3 to 5 years. So what drives a good candidate experience is an organization being honest to their value proposition. So what you have said and put it out is what the candidate experience during the hiring process is the most critical. It should resonate. That's the first point. The second is the line manager or the recruiter's capability and their emotional intelligence or empathy or social skills, either ways, whatever we want to put it. So it's very critical how they are trained and equipped, the recruiter plus the line manager, to handle the candidate hiring process. The third is definitely digitalization plays a good role. A candidate, everyone is seeking more tools which are more automated. They want to have regular updates, and they want to have a smooth navigation when you do assessments and feedback, and they want to have a closed loop navigation where they can also share selected or not selected how the organization is. So these three will be my call outs: the EVP, line manager, recruiter capability, and a digital experience which is up to the expectation of the generation now.
Very interesting points. And I think organizations that be very mindful of what they put out, as you rightly said, when you're driving, talent towards your organization. What message are you giving to them? How are you catering to the expectations of different generations? What kind of manager and career growth are you trying to envision for them? I think these are very important points. So Anjali, thanks for sharing. Ian, what are your thoughts on what drives a good candidate experience?
Yeah, look, thank you. I think, look, to echo, so Anjali, absolutely agree. If you, in terms of an employer value proposition, it has to be sort of authentic and real and lived, not just in the recruitment process, but in, through the employee life cycle. But going back kind of that front end through the attraction and recruitment process, it's really kind of unpick what are candidates' expectations. And I think if we sort of strip it all back, it's actually fairly simple. They just want to be treated, fairly. They want to be treated with respect through the recruitment process. They want to make sure that recruitment process is transparent, and what to expect, and also what they're going to get back in return, whether that's sort of salary expectations or well-being, and we talk about sort of closing the loop as well to make sure, regardless of the outcome, that they know sort of where they're at and ultimately if they're successful or not. And I suppose the other piece is recognizing, again, you mentioned around the war for talent, that now today it's not all about, it's a two-way process, and enabling candidates, with Paradox, for example, the ability to candidates to ask questions any day, any time. It's about preference and enabling candidates to ask those questions, in the mechanism and the way they like, whether that's through SMS or WhatsApp, for instance, or the ability to reschedule interview when life gets in the way. So it's really just making sure that organizations understand it's a two-way process with candidates and through hiring today.
Interesting points again, Ian. I think I totally agree with the transparent part of it. How transparent, how communicative are you with your people when you're trying to bring talent on board? Are you treating them with respect? Are you communicating with them regularly? Are you keeping them informed about what the process is like and where they are at it? I think these are going to be very important going forward also. So thanks for sharing that. Anjali, I'd like to come back to you. So leaders have an opportunity to gain an edge in this battle for talent. They can deliver a superior recruiting experience to every candidate, and even to those who don't receive an offer. So how are you delivering the white glove recruitment experience job seekers expect?
No, I'll start from the point of view as I started with the EVP. So yes, the leaders, and sometimes we undermine the level of the importance of the middle management. So I would like to call out the middle management as the leaders, not only the senior management. So yes, the first thing is they need to understand what the organization value proposition is, and they need to believe in it, firstly, because when they start this conversation, they need to resonate with it. So as an organization, Dutch Lady or FrieslandCampina is seen as a company which is caring and which is inclusive. So we ensure that they have this experience within the organization throughout the employee life cycle, through various initiatives on wellness, psychological safety, well-being, financial health checks, etc., etc. So when they are speaking to the candidates, they are able to bring it out from their own personal life cycle journey in the company. That's the first point. So we give them that experience, which they can really share from their real life experience in the organization. The second thing is obviously the leaders, or everybody is a leader who's involved in the organization, usually selection process. We ensure that they are trained on how to conduct interviews and how to treat a candidate. And we call it, that initiative is globally driven in FrieslandCampina, and it's called Recruit to License. It's quite interesting term which is used. So we had the company has been rolling it out for past 2 years. And we have also trained all our hiring managers on that. So basically it helps them understand what is the right way of doing a hiring process end to end, not only an interview. It also helps them to understand how to provide the right candidate experience and who are their partners in it. So if you have confusion, who should you reach out to? And if you have, if you want to take exceptions, how can you deal it with? So it's not just about understanding the competency framework of the company and the job description. It's really about how to go about doing this whole process, because as Ian was sharing, it's about respect and transparency. And that really comes from practice. It doesn't happen when you just give them a booklet which says these are the 6 competencies and there are 10 questions for each competency. That's not how it works. So we train them on that, and we make it as a practice session, real life. People are into it. And we also, during this training, we also cover very important topics of unconscious bias, and we cover inclusion as well. Because we believe when you talk about unconscious bias and inclusion, you take away a lot of subjectivities and elements which can cause issues of unfairness and wrong perception. So we built in those into the recruit to license module. So that's the second thing we do, the capability building. The third thing we try to do is obviously speed, because a candidate experience, leaders need to understand that everybody is waiting for a conclusion. A candidate is. So we are there to, okay, when we do a process, at every stage, we need to make the candidate aware of what next. And a leader should know that so that the candidate does not have to go to leader and the recruiter and has different messages. Because when you create confusion, people fall off the process. Obviously, that happens. So speed is important, and alignment on who has what role, making that clarity is important. So we insist that we give the feedback to the candidate as soon as possible, and specifically to those who are also not getting selected. So don't forget them, because they are going to be your ambassadors or not ambassadors. Basis how do you resonate with them, and who knows, they will be your future employees, how things change. So these are the few things we try to build into the leaders. It's a journey. Definitely, it's never a perfect scenario, but I believe we are making good progress around, specifically with recruit to license coming in.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting concept that I'm hearing about, the recruit to license thing. How well are you training your recruitment teams to manage these candidates who are trying to join your organization? How transparent are they being? How are they getting rid of the unconscious bias? How fair are they? How well are they communicating, even with people who are not getting offers? I think this entire bit of training your recruitment teams better does play a very, very strong role in creating a better candidate experience. And speed, as you said, very interesting point. How much time are you taking to get back to a candidate? That's also matters, because the talent market is so fast driven these days. You cannot be lagging on that. So Ian, I'd love to hear from you, because speed, and Anjali very rightly pointed out that it's one of the main drivers for a good candidate experience. So according to you, how can we improve hiring speed and shorten this lengthy recruitment process that more organizations have?
Yeah, great question. And I think in terms of that, it's always a combination of like technology, people, kind of, and process, a combination of all of those sort of three elements. And it's really removing the kind of those barriers and friction from the hiring process. And to Anjali's point, training your leaders, appropriately through, the hiring process, and removing that unconscious bias. But, in the last sort of, 10 to 15 years that I've been in the recruitment space, I've seen kind of a trend of organizations almost adding layers of process, whether that's kind of those legacy ATS systems that, systems of record that require account logins and passwords, to multiple rounds of interviews, long application forms and assessments that can take candidates an hour to complete. I think over the last few years, we've seen a bit of a trend for the war of talent, that organizations have started to reflect and start to strip out some of, those friction points and barriers through the hiring process. I think, from my perspective, from Paradox, and what I see with some of the organizations that we work with, it's it comes back to speed. So how easy can you make it for a candidate to apply for a position? So, we see, for example, removing just the requirement for an account number and a password to start an application process. We see about a 60% improvement in candidates completing their application. So, and that's just one small step alone. So it's really, the other piece is really around leveraging technology and automation now to, automate those kind of manual administrative tasks, through the hiring process. So, best practice organizations today are qualifying and screening candidates and having those interviews completed within 48 hours to beat, their competitors sort of to that talent. The other kind of side kind of component of that is if you can leverage technology to remove the kind of admin pieces of the recruitment process, you're kind of giving the gift of time back to leaders and recruiters to do what they should be doing. And that's actually speaking with each other. That's coaching, coaching leaders on best practice hiring, and it's coaching candidates as well. So it's really around, valuing that human interaction and removing and automating the administrative components of the hiring process.
Thanks, Ian. I think I love the part on how technology can enhance the human experience, take care of the administrative and repetitive tasks, and hence work on making the speed and quality, in fact, of hiring better. And if organizations can kind of divide and prioritize where to put technology, where to put the human face, I think that's where the best way is the way of shortening the whole lengthy process of recruitment. So thanks for sharing that. Anjali, I'd like to come back to you. There is a lot of friction during the application process at times. So how do you redesign the application process to remove friction, and how does it impact results? And have you seen any feedback coming in from candidates on that?
I'm not sure I get the part on the friction, but I would rather say that yes, how do we sort of simplify the application process? Because as Anne was also sharing, it is about making it easy for them. When we make things simple and easy for a candidate, I mean, it saves them time, and they also see the organizer. It's a first touch point with the company, and then they all, of course, it can be the call from the recruiter as well. That's another one. But then the application itself, how they put it in. So for the application process, what we try to do is we are quite flexible. We definitely have the career site, and we have where people can apply directly, and they can just start with whatever format they have, the resume or from the LinkedIn, or they can send the application through references. We are not very particular about saying that you have to go into the site and do X, Y, Z, because that tends to be quite disruptive, or maybe it becomes like a barrier when people say, oh, I don't have time, I'll do it later. And then you lose that praise, and then the candidate. So what we try to do is that, yes, we make it easier. You can use different channels. You can send through emails, and we can upload on the career side. So it's okay. So it's fine. You don't have to keep on entering so much of data, because I've seen tools which do that, and it's complete. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in today's environment. So for point number one, we try to make it much easier, different channels. But yes, there is a career site, and there will be a database. So our recruiters are equipped to facilitate that entry there. Yeah. So the candidate does not have to follow a particular regime to be there. So it doesn't create that friction and stress at that level. Yeah. And throughout the application process as well, as a candidate journey in terms of updates, we try to keep the human touch point. And that's what you said. Companies need to start to figure out how to blend the technology and the human element. And let's not forget, people like to receive a call. People like to talk at the end of the day. So we do want to keep that experience. So our recruiters ensure they have this communication, and we don't do, oh, okay, this is an email notification. I'm not a big fan of it. I like it. It can follow through from the conversation, and it can be a short conversation, but just don't do an email notification. It just takes away. And after, I think post the pandemic, people are really seeking connection. Virtual, physical conversation they're seeking. So make it easier, even if it's virtual, just try to have that conversation, even if it's not video or voice, please make that effort to talk to people.
Exactly. So Anjali, my follow-up question to that is, how can you make communication better without adding too many manpower resources, additional manpower? How can you create this relationship between the recruiter and the candidate, but by not increasing the costs on your recruitment team?
Yeah, so we need to understand what are the things that you would want to map into the technology. Make your recruiter's job easier is exactly the storage and the documentation, the workflows can be digitalized, and the tools are digitalized, the analysis reports can be digitalized, they can give you a summary which is so they don't have to do any of this administrative work. Their clear role and pure role is to engage the line manager, the candidate, and try to close the position. So they are there to have conversations.
Yes.
Let's put it like that. Their job is to have the right conversations and connections. Their job is not to enter the data, store the data, bother about Excel files or Word documents, etc. So that's what we are really attempting to move. The other part is, what can you outsource? And I'm a big fan of outsourcing, to be really honest, because I think organizations are HR function. Organizations need to be really the business partner, and recruiter is also a business partner in the true sense. They're there to help the business supplement talent, get the talent for the business. So when they're business partners, things like reference checks, etc., I still fail to understand why some companies still try to do it. because I do believe things which you can find first, what you can just outsource. You don't even you need to do anything. You can do a report and get it. The second phase is what administrative stuff you can kind of streamline so the recruiter doesn't have to, they have access to it. Then this is the minimal thing they need to do, which is conversation and connection, so that a candidate. So there are different layers that we need to kind of cut out and map, say, okay, this is how it looks, and this is the core of the recruitment process, because this impacts how the candidate believes our organization will be.
Yeah, great points, I think, Anjali. As you said, that let go of things which are not required to be done by the human. Let the human have the conversation. I think that's very, very important. Ian, your thoughts on how can we make the communication process better for recruitment and without adding on to, any of the manpower?
Yeah, like I think we're at a really fortunate time in terms of where we are today in terms of technology. And, I've been looking at around how we innovate in high volume hiring, because, specifically, but hiring in general, because if you can solve that problem for, high volume hiring, it's always amplified and your ROI is always greater. But kind of going back to technology today and sort of conversational, sort of first approaches, mobile first technology, it's what we're really describing as a consumer-like experience. So, if you're going to go and buy something from Amazon or, another sort of consumer-grade experience, our expectation is that should apply today in recruitment. And kind of some of that legacy technology, just doesn't offer that consumer-like experience. For us, it's really around, meeting candidates where they are, and that's kind of on their mobile phone. It's probably not sitting in a desktop. We see about 70% of candidates apply for a role or start their application on a mobile phone. And we see kind of open rates are significantly higher if you're actually meeting them through SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. So it's really the channels where they're communicating with their friends and family is kind of really where you want to reach them. And it's also really recognizing a lot of candidates, certainly that work shifts or kind of those, outside your core business hours, kind of at a disadvantage where it makes it very difficult to connect with candidates. So having the ability to, have a conversation, with an organization, through a virtual assistant, for instance, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is really powerful. And we see with some of our clients that, typically candidates are engaging in that virtual assistant about 50% of the time is outside that core business hours. So, there's definitely an appetite for candidates to kind of want to engage in a conversation. And also the most asked question of our virtual assistant, Olivia, is what's the status of my application? So it kind of goes back to kind of that, respect piece and being transparent, being able to provide updates to candidates kind of, at any point through a communication, of their choice. But I think, as I say, every great hire sort of starts with a hello and it starts with a conversation. So, that's absolutely a philosophy, and completely agree with Anjali.
Great. Thanks, Ian, for sharing that. I think the fact that, yes, you should meet your talent where they are, where they are comfortable being, the way they want to be communicated with. I think that's also very important, where you're reaching them out in a way where they want to be reached out to. I think these are going to be important, and technology does play a good part in that. Ian, before I come to Anjali with the final question, I have on how the role of technology is going to enhance speed and efficiency. While you said that a lot of candidates are usually more active, outside the usual office hours. So can you tell us about some technologies like AI and automation that organizations can use to improve speed, quality, and experience of overall, hiring?
Yeah, perfect. So I'll sort of talk from the lens of Olivia, which, Olivia we speak to is our kind of our virtual assistant at Paradox. But we're kind of really sort of, I suppose, proud and privileged to work with some of the world's sort of largest and most innovative organizations that sort of share our sort of passion, for, enhancing a candidate experience, but also leveraging technology in the right way. And, and we look at that in terms of like automating aspects of the recruitment process that, that add little or no value to the process. And the most sort of common one where organizations start is automating interview scheduling. Recruitment teams spend about 20 to 30% of their time scheduling interviews, which is essentially calendar management. By automating those kind of aspects of the process, you allow humans to focus on higher value added tasks. So that level of kind of automation dials up and down dependent on the position and the organization. So for instance, we work with organizations like McDonald's in the US and the UK and Ireland, where we can automate, about 90% of the recruitment and hiring and onboarding process. And, we achieved some amazing results in that space. So they reduced their time to recruit by from 14 days down to less than 3 days by leveraging automation, but while still achieving over a 95% candidate satisfaction rate as well. We look at, say, General Motors in the US, their biggest pain point was scheduling interviews. They had a team of about 52 people, just focused on scheduling alone. And they were really able to repurpose those resources and also sort of reduce their time to schedule interviews from 5 days down to 29 minutes. So you're already shaving off nearly sort of 5 days off that overall time to recruit process. And sort of slightly closer to home to myself, I'm based in Sydney. So we've fortunately enough to welcome Optus to the Paradox family. They went live 2 weeks ago and already seeing that first interview be scheduled in 60 seconds via SMS. And also seeing some really positive results around, reducing their time to recruit, by leveraging automation, at the right appropriate level, dependent on the position.
Great points again. I think, technology and how do you shorten, how do you, increase the quality and not just the quantity of your hiring process. I think that's going to be very, very important. And if these things, your interview process, your interview scheduling process can be taken care of, sifting through CVs can be taken care of. These are the small touch points that technology can help create better, can impact the efficiency, the speed of these initiatives, and then make an overall hiring process more transparent and give more respect to the candidate who's waiting on the other side to know whether he'll be able to join the organization or not. So great points there. Anjali, my final question to you before we wrap up is, we've seen how we can improve the hiring, the speed and efficiency of the hiring process. How can we take care of the human touch better? Are there any other roadblocks that you'd like to talk about in the overall hiring process that organizations need to really ponder upon?
I think, in terms of the hiring process, the organizations need to think about, because I come from a very traditional sector. I've been in food and beverages for most of my career, all of my career till now. And the companies which are almost 150-year-old, both Nestle and FrieslandCampina is 150-year-old companies. Yes. So the different sectors are very, very varied. And sometimes organizations do not want to open themselves to saying that in this world currently, skills and competencies can be really fungible. What is more important is the attitude of the people and traits. So I think as a hiring process at leadership level, that's what the organizations need to be very open and have to see 5 years down the line how the landscape is changing. And they should focus on hiring for talent of 5 to 10 years ahead rather than for today, because increasingly what one is observing is when we hire people for today, 2 years later, they are not so relevant for the changing context, because digitalization, of course, is extremely fast, but not on digitalization across the value chain. Even if you're a manufacturing company, it is really, really very accelerated. So to look for talent which will be relevant for 5 to 10 years down the line, not just what you need for now, will help you to give a better career and commitment to people for their development. So that's something I would like to highlight for leaders to keep in mind.
Yes, that is a great point. How are you preparing your organization for the future, and how are you building your talent for that? Because you need a future the future will always be uncertain, but how are you preparing your people enough so that when those uncertainties strike, you're ready enough to face it? So thanks for sharing that, Anjali. So thanks, Ian, and thanks, Anjali. It was a great conversation. I think at the end of the day, the value proposition that an employer is presenting to the market is all about how you manage your candidates in the very first step. How are you dealing with them? How transparent are you? How well are you communicating with them? How are you creating that candidate experience that will make them your brand ambassadors in a good way going forward? So that's the idea. That's how you use technology. You make sure you train your recruitment teams to be better in interaction. You make sure you take care of the speed of hiring, you take care of the quality of hiring, and at the end of it, you keep the human touch alive when you're taking care, when you're enhancing your recruitment process. So thank you so much once again, Anjali, Ian. It was a pleasure talking to the both of you.
Thank you very much, Yasmin, and thanks, Ian.
Thank you. And to everybody listening in, do catch us for the next episode where we'll be discussing more about how we can fix the broken candidate experience. Take care until then, and bye-bye.